The month of June is about 10 days in, and mobile gaming's already given us plenty to talk about, with some of these games that feel like they just showed up to still even console gaming. Hello friends, this is Mobile. Today we're checking out 20 of the finest new mobile games of June 2026 you absolutely need to try at least once. So first of all, after about 4 years of apparently some development hell, Choo Choo Charles has now finally arrived on Android and iOS. I mean, officially, there's been some fan and unofficial attempts that have actually been taken down, and we tried it. It is still one of the weirdest games in the bunch when we're talking about horror games. If you missed it on PC or any console before, the mobile version gives you the same quality of the PC version, basically nothing watered down here, pretty solid execution, offline play, and controller support as well. And we do actually highly recommend the game for people who do want a horror game but something different. It's a relatively short experience of a game, roughly 4 or 5 hours in long, but it's a sort of game that doesn't stuff itself with filler just to claim a bigger playtime. Keep in mind, it's a premium game with a price tag of $4.99. Going down to number 2, it is Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom. And wow, I mean, this one took over 7 years to finally make its way around here, hopefully coming to Android alongside the iOS version in the following days. Monster Boy is in fact one of those games that looks pretty cute, harmless at first, then slowly proceeds to humble you in every possible scenario. The puzzles, the bosses, the visuals. It's technically a Metroidvania sort of game, but feels like a mix of old school Zelda, platforming, treasure hunting, puzzle solving, all of that. Game's world's huge, animations are amazing, soundtrack is a super hit. Simply put, it's just one of the strongest adventure games to ever land on mobile. And number 3, we've got Lineage W, or basically Global, which is after being locked behind regional releases for about 4 years straight now, this MMORPG is finally available globally as of this week. Let me just say, if you haven't actually played the game before, Lineage W is basically old school MMO warfare on big scale. It's a massive scale. We're talking open world PvP, guild conflicts, castle sieges, grinding, loot hunting, just about enough political drama between clans to feel like an entire Netflix show. It's built as a modern evolution of the classic Lineage formula, which is, keeping the hardcore MMO identity while sort of updating the visuals and the world itself. And if that's your thing, well, few mobile MMO games actually do it like this one. It's available on Android and iOS. It takes you about 14 to 15 gigabytes of storage. Game of Thrones Kingsroad had its grand launch about a week ago. Ever since it's been getting the attention it finally literally deserved before, the first autoplay MMO sort of as people saw when it was in beta. Now, it's more of a single-player action RPG than anything else, and it actually does a pretty good job in delivering real-time combat, some deep story bits and quests, series of iconic locations, characters, and plenty of familiar faces like Jon Snow, etc. It's not a perfect game, is what I'm saying, but it is definitely a much better game than we expected. If you're a Game of Thrones fan looking for a large-scale sort of adventure, Kingsroad might just end up being one of this year's biggest surprises. Moving on to number 5, we've got an open-world action RPG that's sort of closer to an Elder Scrolls game than a Dark Souls, and it is in the list today because regardless of the infinite amount of demand for this specific genre on mobile, it's almost the first time someone actually really did it properly. It's an indie game, of course, free, no big intro, no cinematic flicks, it's just you, sword, or a staff, or a bow, and just a massive open map that clearly wants you to start wandering and not come back for a while. There's something oddly addictive about, just how open this game feels. You're not getting any deep Souls-like mechanics here. It's more like straightforward action RPG timing with like spells, melee, etc. doing most of the work. It's a free game, but 1.5 gigabytes in total. Crisis X is already out in Eastern regions, for those of you who did miss it while still rolling out and building toward a wider global release by the end of June. So far, the game really fits that early access phase, and the survival energy is all there. Got a great survival pace, ton of systems, that constant pressure of never being safe. It's got that classic you versus the map setup where survival is basically the only thing that matters. Or basically a giant survival sandbox where everything is just competing for your time and resource. Crisis X is an online game, of course. It's about 13 gigabytes in total. It's a free game, and it does actually work with a controller. Down to number 7 with the one and only almost Off the Road 2. Here's the thing, this game was released a week ago. It is now downloaded nearly 3 million times in just Android. In my opinion, this thing is just one of those sequels that just shows up and immediately makes the original feel like a joke. If you enjoy games like SnowRunner, MudRunner, but want something more accessible and adventure focused on mobile, well, this might be one of the easiest recommendations of the year. The world itself is about 30 times larger than the first game, and it's not just trucks here. You can jump between supercars, boats, planes, and even fighter jets. It's the type of mobile game that's basically designed to stay on your phone until some sort of a next entry arrives. That's what we think. Going down to number 8, we've got the AAA mobile port Racing Master. Let me just say, after years of regional launches, a lot of betas, waiting around and stuff, it is a beast. So finally available globally, and it might just be the closest thing mobile gaming has right now to a proper console-rated driving sim. This is, in case you didn't know, actually made by the same folks behind F1 and Dirt games. It's not trying to be like an arcade racer. It basically wants you to brake properly, learn driving, and actually drive. If you've been waiting for a serious mobile racing game that looks and feels premium, yet it's free, well, Racing Master is probably one of the strongest contenders we've seen in years. At number 9, we've got the game Anemo, which is probably the first, if not the second, biggest upcoming creature collecting RPG that's targeting mobile gaming right now. It's officially targeting a global release this summer with a beta out as we're talking right now. Before you call this game another Pokemon clone, this thing's actually leaning pretty hard into its own ideas and identity. Like, for example, it's got a twining system here which lets you merge with your pets and explore the world through the perspectives, turning exploration, even combat, into something a little more unique. There's co-op boss fights, PvPs, and even player-to-player Anemo trading. Anemos are basically pets. Anemo, we think, is the kind of game that's just targeting players who've been really waiting for something fresh. Quick honorable mention here. Monster Hunter Outlanders development's going buttery smooth, and you can still pre-register and play the game on the Google and the Apple Store. It is basically Monster Hunter built all the way for mobile without even trying to copy the console base. And that is why it works. You're building squads, mixing classes, hitting out on bite-sized hunts that still feel like real monster fights, and outside the combat, it's a big open world to explore, lots of crafting and traversal tools. It is Monster Hunter, just more streamlined for quick sessions instead of long grinds. Moving on.
A mini-shoot adventure. Take control of a swift and responsive spaceship.
Mini-shoot Adventures is finally on mobile. This thing is legitimately special. It's a pretty tiny little Metroidvania sort of shooter game where you control a little ship exploring a huge interconnected world that's packed with just secrets, puzzles, upgrade, the smoothest of gameplays, and non-stop bullet hell fighting. It plays like old school Zelda mixed with twin stick combat, which is just something of its own, constantly rewarding exploration with new abilities, hidden paths. The world design is in fact ridiculously smart. It's got bosses, and somehow the whole thing stays cozy instead of stressful. One of those indie games that instantly feels crafted with actual love. It might have one problem, which is the game's not free. It will take you $5.99. Sitting at number 12, we've got Among the Sleep. The game finally made its way to mobile, and it is still one of the coolest setups in this entire genre. We probably had one more game like this ever made, Baby in the Yellow, and instead of, playing as a grown-up detective, cop, survivor, you're literally playing as a toddler through a nightmare. while everything just makes you feel small and fragile. Most of the game is exploration, puzzles, hiding, all that stuff since you're small, slow, completely helpless, which is exactly what makes the horror work. Easily one of the most unique horror adventures you get to play on mobile. It's a premium game, including a free demo on both Google and the Apple Store. At number 13, we've got Lumberjack Sim 3D. And sometimes you don't need stress or any world-ending threats. Sometimes you just need an axe and a forest. This is actually one of those oddly very satisfying sim games where the entire loop revolves around chopping trees, hauling timber, processing wood and stuff, and eventually, slowly building up your own logging operation from basically nothing. The game's appeal is pretty straightforward. You cut trees, make money, buy better gear, etc. If you're into casual management games, resources, and that satisfying numbers go up progression sort of stuff, this is an easy one to sink some time into. Simple concept, surprisingly addictive. This actually took a good 5 years to finally land on mobile, but it's finally here, and if you missed it, Blue Fire is an adventure that sort of feels like someone tried to make old school Zelda dungeon crawling with some precise, almost Void Runner type of platforming. Although Blue Fire did actually come out to Android about a year ago, it was taken down for whatever reason. It's now back, and there's a free demo for you to play as well. I think the game is at its best technically when you're going through these parkour areas, and less in the actual fighting. So if you like Zelda style exploration but also like enjoy skill based platforming challenges in between, this is basically that blend. Super cute, pretty fun game, plays with an Xbox controller as well, simple enough to dive in at any time, yet engaging enough to keep playing for a long time. Highly recommend it. Clay Jam is pretty classic, good old Neverhood. One of those games that's just handmade enough to make you go back in time. So everything's actually clay, and you're rolling this squishy little ball down hills, just smashing into bugs, choosing paths, and growing bigger as things escalate down the line. Pretty simple game in concept, but really satisfying once it gets moving. Nothing complicated, it's just arcade, tactile fun with a weirdly cozy feel to it. It is, though, $2.99, sitting on both Google and the Apple Store right now. It's also playable offline.
Its most prosperous house belongs to the Vanderbooms.
At number 16, we've got Servant of the Lake Lite. And if you've actually played any Rusty Lake game before, you already know things are about to get weird. This is basically a sort of 15 to 30 minute demo for the premium adventure, which is apparently coming out later on in the month. But it's enough to remind everybody why, Rusty Lake is such a loyal fan base. Here you're now dropped into this Vanderbroom state as a servant, solving puzzles, completing household tasks, obviously slowly realizing this family is definitely hiding something very, very wrong. And from there, what starts as some sort of normal chore system turned into the kind of nonsense the series is known for. Check it out just in case you missed it.
Hi, I'm John, and I'm the creator of social fish keeping game Tiny Aquarium.
At number 17, we've got Tiny Aquarium. It's a very different game, really different. Looks like it's nothing at first, just some blocky looking low poly pixel art. You just drop some fish in a tank, do a bit of fishing, upgrading a few things, and then you're checking out your phone like more than usual, even in the middle of work. It's got that old school virtual pit feeling where you're just weirdly addicted, attached to what's basically just a little system of fish and timers. I'm pretty sure most of you know about the game Aquarium. It's a little bit like that. Nothing loud or complicated, it's just steady progression that actually feels good to come back to. It is a paid game, takes you $2.99, but still worth it. Moto Skeletor is a endless runner, almost one of a kind considering today's AI slub, and it's out now on both Android and iOS. The loop doesn't change, you get extra characters as you go, abilities in the characters add a little bit of flavor, while at its core, well, it's that simple reflex-based running game. Check it out, it's an online game of 500 megabytes in total, and it's a free game. Number 19, we've got the Wizard World, the Harry's Mister, which we did mention before. An action-adventure that really does look like it's inspired by the Hogwarts legacy, but it's also made for mobile. To be fair, there's a pretty decent amount of sandbox here in the game. You've got broom flying, spell experimentation, a lot of exploration that actually encourages messing around. But compared to Hogwarts legacy, it feels like just a sort of indie sim game. It's not trying to be Hogwarts is what I'm saying, but it's definitely standing in the same hallway wearing the same robe and hoping nobody asks a lot of questions. It's a pretty good game, it's offline. And last but not least, Driftfall caught us off guard a little while ago because it really did look like a generic pixel art game, but it sort of turned out to be much more. First of all, the vibe just reminds you of those older RPGs. It just keeps unlocking new systems every few hours, where like 1 minute you're clearing dungeons, the next you're upgrading and chasing materials for a weapon you probably didn't know you absolutely actually wanted. It's not trying to be the deepest action RPG ever made, but it does a pretty good job making progression feel rewarding. Definitely a sleeper hit. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again tomorrow.